Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Pathways to Excellence. It is my honor today to have with me right here Ms. Nuru Izati Hasbullah. Thank you so much for coming on Pathways to Excellence.
Thank you so much for having me. Very excited to be here and to talk to you.
Indeed. Wow, wonderful. Well, Izati, you are an incredible content creator. I think that you're the number one consultant, girly, career, influencer, financial advice individual of the entire world at this point in time. So how do you feel at this point in time?
That is definitely overselling and fake news.
Whoa. No misinformation on this channel. If only for 2 seconds. Right.
No, I feel really good. It's a wonderful Saturday. The sun's out. I have my matcha latte. We're talking about something that I personally feel very passionate about. Yeah.
Amazing. Cool. Well, thank you so much for being here and also for taking the time as well out of your busy schedule, no doubt. But so to kind of start us out, Izati, I think that most of the audience, right, may know about your life perhaps as a consultant and all the different things that you do. But I guess what is it that makes you want to share that life and also the experience that you essentially have working as a corporate girly in modern Malaysia?
So, to be completely honest, how I felt into content creation and how I felt into creating this kind of content was very much accidental, right? It's very much I fell into it. I didn't set out to be a content creator, but when people started following me after I got my Rhodes Scholarship for Oxford, I felt that I had a sense of responsibility to share content that I felt was of value. Something that I realized through my journey from middle school to university, master's, and now in consulting is that the path that I've taken and the privilege I've had to get me here is not known to a lot of people. There are a lot of very, very talented individuals, especially Malaysians out here, who are incredibly brilliant, has a lot of potential, but just may not know how to get to a place where they can realize their full potential. So I felt like it was a sense of responsibility for me to democratize that knowledge so that people know that, hey, as a Malaysian, you can get a scholarship that is of international renown. You can get into a big MNC. I just wanted to demystify the process. So that's what brought me here.
I see. We might call that noblesse oblige, maybe, or nobility obliges, and various other things of that nature. Great, so that's wonderful. I mean, that's exactly what this channel is about, and you're here basically in the right place. So thank you for sharing that. Well, let's now think about, I guess, what you mentioned earlier. So then that is the Rhodes. So then that is clearly one of the most prestigious scholarships in the world. But it was also preceded by a time maybe when you were a high schooler or even a primary schooler, perhaps even in early Malaysia, unless of course you skip straight to the masters right there without any other intervention. But maybe can you tell me a bit about the early days of Ezzaty Hasbullah?
The early days of Ezzaty Hasbullah. Well, I didn't grow up in Rhodes. We were very comfortable, my parents. They're way more comfortable now, but when I was growing up, we were doing okay, right? I am the first of 5 siblings. So I think as a Malaysian, the first daughter of any family always has it, I feel, the toughest because expectations are very, very high.
Yes.
So I think from a very young age, my parents have always put this thought in my mind that Izati, or they call me Kakka, which means like older sister, right? Kakka, you are going to study abroad. It was never like, do you want to study abroad? It's more like, you will study abroad. So I think it wasn't just pleasure, but that expectation and, my sense of responsibility allowed me to imagine that was even possible.
I see.
I'm very, very privileged to have parents who they themselves were scholarship holders. They themselves, I think, were either Mara or JPA scholars, and through that scholarship, managed to change their life. Like my father's grandfather worked in the Felda estate. My mother's father was a police officer in Sarawak. So that scholarship really changed their lives, and from there, allowed them to pass that vision and ambition to me. And through that, I was able to push myself to get to where I am today.
I see. Wonderful. Wow. Okay. So you're like the kakak right here. Do you feel that like the rest of your siblings are going to be all like, oh my gosh, what is this?
No,
What did my sister become? You want me to compete with that?
no, actually, the amazing thing is that all of my siblings ended up taking very different pathways.
Yeah.
I think it's also an artifact of the fact that I am the elder sister, but the siblings that came after me were all brothers, and brothers just tend to like to do their own thing. They're like very unbothered. We're like, yeah, my sister went to Oxford, so whatever. But they are all accomplished in their own ways. My brother right below me, he is
Yes,
Hafiz,
yes.
which means that he memorized the Quran.
Wow.
He started in one of the best, or like the best Islamic university in the world.
Wow.
One of my other brothers is now just finished his ACCA papers on scholarship as well. So they're all amazing in their own right.
Amazing. Wonderful. Okay then. So, pardon me, let me check something.
Alright.
Okay, yes. Amazing. Great. So let's then think about the individual path that you took then. Of course, and it's great that you mentioned what you mentioned earlier, because there are so many different pathways to excellence. You could be essentially a great student, but you could also be a amazing athlete, and you could be also, as you mentioned earlier, so an ACCA qualified scholar, thingamabob right there. But what led you, I guess, to take the path of education and eventually to pursue, well, your learning at some of the best universities in this world?
Yeah, so basically you're asking me like what made me want to to continue studying to my master's, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think at a very young age I could see that I was a pretty good student.
Mm.
I am very studious. I enjoy learning. I enjoy reading. And I think to simplify it all, I just went along doing something that I enjoyed.
Ah.
And one thing led to another.
Mhm.
There I was at Oxford doing a master's under the Rhodes Scholarship.
Mm.
It was really me just pursuing something that I truly was
Mhm.
passionate in and enjoyed. But at the same time, I also did other things, right? In my time at Oxford, I started doing content creation. I've always been a sports person. I was the sportswoman from my middle school days. Then I played basketball for Oxford as well. So as I was doing education, I also allowed to develop a lot of other things.
Totally, yeah. May I ask where you did your like primary school and eventually your high school as well?
My primary school was a private integrated Islamic school. It's a very small, very, very small
Mhm.
run private school in Kota Damansara, sort of where I grew up.
Ah, I see.
Yeah. And then my middle school, my Form 1 to Form 3, I was at an SNK, also nearby where I live.
Wow.
From 4 to Form 5, I was given the opportunity to go to a boarding school, but that was all the way in college from then.
Ah, I see. Cool, cool, cool. And it's nice because that kind of shatters the stereotype that a lot of people have that maybe you have to go to an international school or to have essentially a family of dynastic means to be able to walk to a good university. Okay, great. And then perhaps something that is less known, I'm not sure if it's less known, or maybe you do talk about this, but perhaps something that's less known to those who followed you because of the Rhodes Scholarship was that you went on to the University of Pennsylvania.
Yes.
Right on, okay. Where incidentally, we have essentially a truly insane variety of things right there. But yeah, so like, you've had experience with both, shall we say, the US education as well as the UK education. Now, of course, there's a confounding factor there because you have two separate degree levels. But what do you feel, even considering this confounding factor, was your experience at Penn like for you?
Yeah. Actually, it's my third year
Mhm.
in UPenn. I did in the UK.
Ah.
So an American degree is 4 years, and people sometimes take the opportunity to do 1 year or one semester abroad. So I used my third year and studied at King's College London.
Wow.
So I actually got the opportunity to do an undergraduate experience both in America and the UK. So I am able to somewhat
Fantastic.
assess those two at the same level, right? So going back to your question, what my experience was like just in Penn specifically, honestly, the reason I even chose America over the UK, because when I was doing my A levels, because I did A levels, and that is usually a path that you take to go to the UK. But my scholarship provider just asked, hey, anyone here also wants to try for America? And my best friend wanted to go to America, and she was like, come with me. I'm like, okay. Study plan, right? Like, if you remember I said before, my parents were always like the UK.
I see.
I
Okay.
just did a SAT prep for fun because
Yes.
like why not do 2 exams at the same time?
Yes.
So I did. So that's how I came to a position where I had to choose between the US or the UK. Then my scholarship provider sort of talked to me and reasoned that the US would give you a lot more flexibility and opportunity and experience that was different from everyone else. So for that reason, I ended up, even though like very scared to go to America. In America, going back to your question, I'm very grateful that I went there because the American education system is amazing in the sense that it allows you to explore your interests before you decide on your major. So in the UK, it's very similar to Malaysia, right? You come in with a degree in mind, you enter that degree, and you go through the same degree sort of structure as everyone else who's in that degree. In America, it's different. So you only technically declare your major after the end of your second year. So in the first 2 years, you sort of like shop around and you decide what you like. That's exactly what I did. I entered in as a biology or biological sciences major. I realized I hated being in a lab. I shopped around, did classes, amazing classes like mural arts of Philadelphia. I did nutrition. I did even some business classes, and I came across this class called Health and Societies, which is basically the social science side of public policy of health policy. Fell in love with it. Yeah. So that's what led me to where I'm today. So bottom line, experience in America, I can speak hours on, but fundamentally, it's the ability to explore your interests that really, I think, put me to where I am today.
And that's wonderful. You know, I find it so fascinating that your scholarship provider just casually went up to you and then basically went all like, oh, hey, does anybody want to go over to the US? Let me know, you know? Because, like, for one thing, I mean, well, it's significantly more expensive compared to the UK, of course. So, like, in your mind, if you were to think from their perspective, just for like a moment, right? What do you suppose is going on in their minds when they ask the question as to would you like to go over to the US? Because that's not a trivial choice to make.
Yeah, I think fundamentally it's having diversity of experience in their scholars. A lot of their scholars tend to go to the UK. In fact, a lot of scholars in Malaysia in general, a lot of students of Malaysia in general who do study abroad tend to study in the UK. So a lot of people tend to have that very specific sort of experience.
I see. Okay.
Going to America, one, definitely the fact that you get to explore your education interests is one, but just living in America, being in an American institution, sort of strengthens different muscles, strengthens different like social aspects of you. And before I went, I didn't get it, but after going through the process and having seen what's like being a student at King's versus studying at Penn, UK, US, I see the difference. And there is value in having that diversity of experience. I'm not saying one is better than the other, it's just different.
I see. Okay. I have a question for you that I'd like you to answer in 2 seconds. If you were to recommend a person who only has one choice right now, US or UK, go. Which one would you choose?
US for undergrad. US for undergrad, UK for masters.
Wow, okay. Wow. Your path.
Yeah.
Amazing. Wow. And you have her right here. Amazing. Why do you say that?
It goes back to what I was saying about the experience in the US.
Yes.
I think the ability to explore the things that you like before you decide what you're going to pursue, I think is monumental. Except for certain fields, right? If you know you want to be like a doctor, America's not the best place for you because you have to have a degree first before you become
Right.
nursing as well. Maybe even engineering is better for you to like go in deep already on the content. But if you're still like me and wasn't really sure, I'm not really sure what you want to do, I highly recommend America. And not just that, right? Yes, you have to explore first before you decide on your major, but once you decide on your major, you get to craft your degree yourself. So let's say, for instance, you decide to do, I know you already know this, you're in ES apps, right? Let's say I decided to do health policy. My major, my degree, will look very different from my other friends who do health and policy because we decided to do different classes.
I see.
So the ability to customize your own learning, and not just that, decide to take on different minors or a second major. I had a friend who did 3 majors and 3 minors in 4 years. That opportunity would not have been available to you in the UK. I have a major and a minor. On top of that, I studied abroad. That flexibility And that ability to like customize your own journey, I think is monumental, especially as an undergrad who, for the first time ever, have a choice to explore what you like. I
Wonderful.
think as an undergrad, America is the way to
Oh, amazing.
go.
All right then. Well, what's something about your academic choices then, like the kind of education that you decided to undertake to shape yourself into the person that you are. What is it that appeals to you about health and societies and anthropology? I mean, anthropology, I guess like for the audience out there who may not be super familiar with that, the study of humans. That's right? Right.
Human and
I
human
thought-
culture, yeah.
Okay.
That's fair.
All right. The study of humans. Great. So, would you share with me what led you to be interested in some of these things?
Yeah. I think the short of it all is that the way I came across into the field was that I mentioned before, I realized that I didn't like the lab. And I had a really close friend of mine who was American. She said, "Hey, Izati, you should try this class that I just joined. It's like really interesting." And I went in. It was the Intro to Health and Societies. And anthropology was like baked into the course as well. I went in, and for the first time in my life, I was put in front of content that was more critical thinking related. As you know, as someone who does very well in school in Malaysia, you tend to only do sciences, right? Like I did sciences upwards to my SPM. I've never had to read a passage, write an essay, and think critically. But when I was in that class, I got so fascinated with this mental process of reading and critically thinking when the answer is not certain. So that's that part of it. But as you know, I actually came in with a biosciences major. Reason being was that my parents really wanted me to be a doctor. So as per any Asian parent, right? So I always was sort of passionate in the field of health policy, public policy. And whenever you think of doctor and health, you always think of it as a very sterile, very objective field of just sciences, biology, and stuff like that. But when I entered that class, I realized that it's not as simple as that, health policy. It's about human behavior. It's about human culture. It's about perceptions. Just look at what COVID-19 showed us, right? Yes, you can have the objective lens of you should wash your hands, stay in, and wear a mask. But there were people who rebelled against that, right? Did not want to do vaccines, did not want to wear a mask, even though the science showed otherwise. So that lens really ignited interest in me to understand how to make policies work from a human perspective. And anthropology was just a tool for that. That's how I got into the field.
I see. Cool. And you did various things, like, for example, writing this article called A Note to the Health Minister, for example, and various other things of that nature. But, okay, kind of diving in then, well, what aspect of human behavior in the context of our society, culture, and, our behavior patterns right here fascinates you? What is it that has led to this enduring interest to the point that it was pursued really in your education later at Oxford?
Yeah. Well, I think there's just something about understanding that, but specifically public policy, is complex. I think there is, especially in economics, for instance, right? There is this thought process or like very dominating thought that like this thing called what's the word? Homo economicus, or like the ideal man, right? Meaning that people are rational. People are rational and they will react rationally. Data can predict how people react. That is a very like well-defined thought within public policy. But once I went through my learning journey in anthropology and health and sciences, I realized that that's really not the case. Like people are not rational. People are very, very irrational. And if you don't pull into this more qualitative side of thinking and academia, you will not get to the right answer because you will just say, hey, vaccines heal you, take vaccines, but you don't address all this fear, the conspiracies, all the systems that allow people to take vaccines. It's not going to work. that desire to really capture those nuances to make policies that do work, something that was forever interested. I was forever interested in. So that's why I decided to do that master's.
Wow. And Messi is right. I mean, like, maybe you remember that scandal in the Lancet a while ago featuring that one researcher who said that vaccines essentially cause autism.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually crazy. Like,
Yeah.
navigating all of that constantly. But then, let's then move on, I guess, from where you were at Penn over to then Oxford. Well, of course, the Rhodes was a funding source, and naturally it's a prestigious one. But then, what led you to consider of the range of possibilities that you might have had for funding your education to take up the Rhodes?
Yeah.
And why Oxford in particular?
Yes, of course. So for full honesty, right? When I was in my senior year in university, I had a lot of questions. I was thinking, should I continue with the master's or should I get a job? Actually, I just did all of them. Like I applied for jobs, I applied for several masters, I applied for the Gates in Cambridge, for the Rhodes in Oxford, I applied for Nat Hennessy from Stanford, I applied for many jobs that I was interested in as well, including some jobs that sort of like my scholarship advisor sort of wanted for me, right? But then ultimately, I realized that when I was going to go through all this process, of course, I got some job like rejections, all the works, right? Ultimately, I realized that if I'm really truly interested in this field of public policy and research, having a master's is really kind of important. And I felt like I wasn't done learning quite yet.
I see.
Yeah. So that's definitely like one part of it. And when Rhodes sort of accepted me, I went through the process. To the question of like why Rhodes, why Oxford, not like any other university. Well, they were the first to accept me. Because they were the first to accept me, I was like, okay, forget the other ones. I'm just gonna go with this one.
I see.
Because it was convenient and it was easy.
I see.
That's like the very logical side. I think the more emotional side of things is that it was peak COVID, a time of full uncertainty, and going to the working workforce at one time was very daunting to me. I felt like I just wasn't ready. Neither was like a right time for me to go to the workforce.
I see.
So I decided, well, I have the opportunity to pursue my studies. Let's do that. So that's what I did.
Wonderful, thank you. All right, wonderful. So at Oxford, so you suddenly indulged in a lot of that learning, though. You went not just essentially for an MSc in international health and tropical medicine, but also into an MBA at a side business school. Maybe can you share with me like what that part of your life was like right there? Because like you see, right, like already your undergrad seemed like unreasonable to most regular human beings. Time, schedule, activity, variety wise right there, academics, sports, and so many other things right there. But here at Oxford, you were doing two different degrees. Admittedly, they were not like concurrent. I think like basically you did like one, then you did like another. But how was life at that point in time? Was it like a stressful experience for you, or like how you describe like your time like at Oxford?
Yeah, I would say it was very different for my first year and my second year. The first year was very much COVID times, so most of my time spent was in my own apartment because there was didn't go outside that much. So at that point of time, I was very privileged that I had very close housemates that we get along very well. So we often have dinner together. So that was a different part. But when things opened up, I would say as a top line read that my time in Oxford was not nearly as stressful as my time in Melbourne. I at the point of time was like super chilled down. I was like, no, I don't need to push myself too much. I push myself enough. I'm here to learn rather than to make the grades. So I think that contributed to a lot of more calm. I had a lot more time to spend with my friends. I focused a lot on. I joined Oxford's basketball team. So yeah, I think in general was a lot more chill and it was calmer than my time in America.
Wow, calmer, huh?
Yeah.
That's interesting because when people think about say America, they might think of it as like a dystopia, like a place where people are just kind of like going around like high school dramas, basically with like irresponsible like high schoolers. Of course, like when you're in Penn, basically like that materially changes and stuff of that nature right there. I guess what do you feel? I guess was the reason for that difference primarily? Was it just like a change in like mental attitude, or was it like something of a systematic difference between like America and the UK?
I wouldn't say it's a systematic difference, but I guess it's the difference and how it was perceived through my lens.
I see.
Definitely one part of it is a mental trip. I was older. I didn't feel like after the masters I need to do incredibly well because I need to do like another PhD. I was aiming for a PhD compared to my time in Oxford, where I was like, I need to make good grades because one, my scholarship needed me to make good grades for me to retain the scholarship. Secondly, I might want to do a master's. So I was really pushing hard for it.
Cool.
Masters, I didn't have any.
Okay. Interesting.
But another difference is like America and the UK is incredibly different experiences from a social perspective. Yes, I would say America is amazing in the sense of the education system is very unique, allows you to explore. But I personally really enjoyed life. The reason being is that to travel around Europe is a lot easier. I felt safer. Yeah, I felt safer in the UK compared to America. All the guns and the violence and the homelessness, it's just more apparent in America. So I didn't feel as safe. UK, I can walk around at night and just feel relatively okay. I had a lot of friends as well in the UK from Malaysia. So as much as people often say when you go to overseas, make friends who are non-local, and I did do that. But it's always a sense of comfort when you meet someone who enjoys Nasi as much as you do, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So having that as well in the UK allowed me to feel like more at home.
I see. Okay, that's cool. Then move on then to the MBA then. I guess like what led you to do an MBA and what do you feel that you took away from that maybe you might not have obtained anywhere else?
The reason I took an MBA was so the Rhodes Scholarship, they fund you for 2 years, regardless of what you want to do. You can do 2 masters, or you can do a PhD, and they will pay for the first 2 years, or you can do a master's transition to a PhD. I knew I didn't want to do PhD, so I knew the only option for me was 2 masters. When time came for me to decide what my second master's was, I have gone through my Cultural Societies degree, right? And through that degree, I realized that yes, actually there's a lot of social health issues in this world, social inequalities, health inequalities. Really, most of the solutions already exist. Most of them already exist. The gap that we see of why the inequalities exist is, and one that is of economics, which means a lot of the health inequalities that we see in this world actually don't serve the poor. And our economic system, our capitalist economic system, tends to serve the rich. So as you can see, there's a gap. It's like the system is not supporting, it's not allowing for the proliferation of solutions to help the needy. So I realized, okay, I see this problem, but I don't have the knowledge on how to deal with it. I don't have the business knowledge or the background and accounting and finance. I don't know anything. To be able to fix this problem, I need to understand the language of this field, this world. That's why I should do an MBA. And in my MBA, I focus a lot on impact investing, on in fact, also basically like a field of investing where they focus on social impact investments. So that's really why I went to the MBA. And Oxford Site Business School is known to be more of an impact-oriental business than MBA. So I learned a lot from my experience there.
Okay. May I ask you a layperson's question then? If you were to propose one impact investment or one immediate, direct, actionable next step for the Malaysian government to take in redressing health inequalities between the rich and the poor at this particular point in time, like one single action taken, I don't know, either today or tomorrow, then what might it be?
So I know ideally I will give you a very nice like one-word answer, but really it's very complex. Malaysia's healthcare system actually in a range of different countries is not too bad. Like if you go to America, which is super privatized, it's terrible. So Malaysia is actually not too bad. We do have a dual healthcare system, which is private and public, right? Really, the unlock in Malaysia, I feel that currently our public coffers is very limited. So a lot of doctors are underpaid, healthcare institutions are not well managed. There's a lot of hospitals that are not built yet in different parts of Sabah, for instance, in different rural areas. So I think we need to have a serious look at how we finance healthcare in Malaysia so that the system that we do have can be enhanced and can be scaled.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. At this time, as we transition into a discussion of your career, I'd like to highlight an interesting similarity between yourself and another one of my previous interviewees. I will now go ahead and show you a quick video right here. I noticed that your background is tremendously similar to that of Miss Wan Nadia.
Oh yeah.
Miss Wan Nadia, the president of the Harvard Club of Malaysia. So then, yeah, like very similar sort of like situation right there. Ivy League, bachelor's, and then eventually went on to do a master's.
In
Eventually,
the US though, right?
yeah, in the US. Sorry?
My master's in the US or
Oh no.
in the UK?
Oh no, the master's was in the UK. Yeah.
Oh, undergrad was in the US, yeah.
Yes.
Harvard, yeah.
Undergrad, she was at Harvard, and then in the UK, then she went on to the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine at U of London. Yeah. So, yeah, like that's kind of interesting as well. But the similarity doesn't end there. Because as I know, so then like as part of your content also, like you are the hashtag consultant Girlie thingamabob right here, and Miss Wan Nadia also did I guess a first job essentially at BCG. But so on your part, well, what led you into consulting and essentially the different things that are associated with it?
Well, I sort of always knew that I was doing a field of like impact work, work. So during my time as an undergrad, I did sort of different things. I did some time at a public institution. I did some time at a think tank. I did some time at consulting. Because this, in my mind, then was like the three sort of players within policy work and policy implementation. So during one of those things, I realized that the experience I enjoyed the most was when I was in the field. I felt that the rigor was great. I felt that the fact that when you're a consultant, your client, which may be a public body, hire you, meaning they will listen to you. And they will, for better or for worse, take your advice seriously. So that's sort of what led me to go into consulting a bit more. Having said that, nowadays, I think a lot of the policy work, there's not really that much policy work in consulting. But it has really allowed me to learn a lot, and I think it's a very, very good stepping stone to as like a first job because it teaches you a lot of skills at a very like young age.
Okay, cool. What do you feel then are, I guess, some ways in which the education that you had received, well, at Penn, at Oxford, and a whole bunch of like different ways from like personal reading as well, yeah, like how have those things sort of influenced, I guess, like your journey in consulting as well?
Yeah, I think the amazing thing about consulting is that you really can get into it with any degree as long as you have a level of critical thinking and analytical thinking. So I believe that my degree in the past, although it was not that quantitative, wasn't really like business focused, except for my MBA, it really changed the way I think in terms of my critical lens.
Wow.
Yeah, because like it's easy to say the data shows this, but it's easy to say, okay, what is the data not showing? What are we missing? So that critical lens was something that I was trained in as an anthropologist through my time in health policy and health, right? So that has allowed me to translate that skill in the consulting. Whenever we advise something, there's always a different lesson. Yes, the data is showing A, B, C, but okay, how do we make sure that the result that the data is showing can actually be implemented when real humans are doing it?
Right.
That lens of thinking. I think that has been something that I think is one of my strengths. But having said that, I'm still very weak in the sense of like financial modeling. It's something I'm still learning. That's also something that I'm working on in the job.
Okay, wonderful, cool. And I guess thank you for sharing that. As you're kind of going through this process right now, so like the I guess like image maybe that like a lot of people do see like of you, it's basically like going around like doing consulting and essentially like sharing like different aspects of your life. So I guess like right here, right now, where you sit or stand or whatever it is that you happen to be doing, I guess like what sorts of aspects would you want to share with your audience? And also I'm curious. I'm super, super curious. what goes into the process of making an Ezzaty Hasbullah video?
It's not as magical as people think it is.
Mhm.
It's a lot of just me walking around with my camera talking to myself. Uh, yeah. Okay, so I am not that structured when it comes to that. Really, because my work is so busy, I tend to make content when I have breathing room, so when I'm not too busy. So let's say I'm in a place of my project where I'm not dying, or I'm in between projects, and that's a time where I really like focus on my content. But on a normal basis, if I am like working and it's not too crazy, right? What I would do often is I'll sit down, think of all the ideas that I want to do, based on my scrolls, based on these ideas in my head, and I have like this running list of potential ideas.
Uh,
And what let's say all my backup content has been used, then I go into a phase of like, okay, let's see what content that I want to make, what feels right in this moment,
Right.
based on my idea bank. I choose some idea bank, I'm like, okay, I want to do this for. I tend to batch make my content just because it's more time efficient. So let's say I would spend like a Sunday to plan what I want to do, maybe spend the spend of the week to actually record content, especially if it's like a day in my life kind of thing. Or if it's just like a talking head, then I'll just like have that Sunday to just record all the content. And then the following weekend, and then I'll edit everything and have the text ready and have everything be in drafts for me to just like post at like different times, basically. So that's like the long and short of how the process works. But you know, like I don't know, people actually follow me. I don't really have a rigid posting schedule. Sometimes I post like 3 times a week, sometimes once, sometimes I don't post for entire months. So it really is like more of a what I feel in the moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Is there an overarching, shall we say, like message or like something that you're trying to convey through your content, or is it more of like you're trying to, I guess, capture different moments of your life, like as they kind of come by?
Yeah, no, I think the overarching sort of my sense of purpose, or like my in Islam it's called niyat, right? Your intention is really always to demystify quote unquote success. People tend to see me as someone who is objectively, I guess, successful, right? I'm sharing content to tell people that I'm just a normal person who happens to have the privilege of knowledge and right connections to know how to get to where I am today, right? Like my Rhodes Scholarship really was thanks to my senior, who was also a Malaysian Rhodes Scholar. I saw him and it was like, it makes it real for me, and he supported me through the application. And it's really demystifying how to get to a place where you can fulfill your full potential. So a lot of my day in my life, because consulting is something not many Malaysians know what it is or what we do. And so I'm demystifying that. Sometimes I share content about financial literacy, because people think it's hard. It's not really that hard. About like preparing CVs, because now I hold workshops as well. How to do good CVs. These are the things that are not taught to you in school, right? And I think it's a disservice, especially to people who didn't grow up in a place of privilege, who might have parents who have gone through corporate work, have siblings who have gone through the application process. So demystifying all those different aspects of life to achieve potential is something that I always have in the back of my mind whenever I make content.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that, Sash. As we kind of move towards the future then, considering where you are now and looking outwards into, I guess, Malaysia in general and the world at large, what do you feel are some things that you find are meaningful at this point in time, and what would you like to then accomplish, I guess, like on your time on Earth?
That's a very humongous question. Well, going back to sort of what I was saying about how I tended to do an MBA, right? The fact that I do see a lot of inequalities in this world, and it's very apparent, like everywhere you look. We live in a world that's full of inequalities, and I do believe that one of the unlocks to that is fixing sort of the economic system that we all live in, right? Like creating a system where it serves both the rich and so I personally would love to be in a space to be able to do that, like whether it be in impact investing or whether it be in like INGO, like WHO or any of those things. I don't really know yet, but I do know that marrying the solutions that we need to fix inequality with enabling that through the revamp of the economic system. That's not what I want to do.
I see. Wonderful. Okay. Cool. Then, thank you for that. As you kind of think then also about immediate future, and but maybe less, shall we say, grandiosely about like say things that may come to pass, but like maybe in a later future. I guess what are some things that you're looking forward to, like projects wise or otherwise, like in your immediate future?
Yeah. So I've had the privilege to run a couple of workshops, one on personal finance, one on CV writing. I really hope to be able to do more of that. I hope to do another one on CV because I've had a lot of requests from people who wanted to come. CV writing workshop, interviewing workshop, a bit more on personal finance. Maybe even do something of the sort, right? Like what you're doing, interviewing people who have made it. And I want to focus more on like the women who have made it in Malaysia. So those are the kind of projects I hope to be able to do. But having said that, I am self-aware that I am in a very busy job. I'm also getting married this year.
Congratulations!
Thank you. So like managing all those expectations and balancing all of that, that is something that
Congratulations, future husband.
Congratulations or be careful.
Whoa. Okay.
Anyways, yes, so balance. I do have those ambitions to grow sort of my platform so that I can further serve my intention of doing content I do while balancing sort of being present in my life.
Wonderful. And then, wow. So thank you so much for that. It's been truly wonderful speaking with you. And yeah, I think that many people will have many things to learn from you. And I hope that your content will continue to grow and you will continue to impact many more people in the days ahead as well.
Thank you. If I do, no, not if, when I do promote my workshops and my other sort of like, I guess, learnings, I look forward to meeting maybe some of you guys who would like to join. So that's very excited. And thank you so much for having me again.
Thank you, Izati. #Plus. Thank you.
Thank you.